You can go ahead and reread your 4 of them running the show.
Oh, we're not gonna do the
oh right, we gotta do the intro.
Yeah.
Hi guys, AngryMonkey here,
and Jackson Farrell, and now you know who we are.
Hi.
Yep. So here's Snake continuing his story of the experiments.
The experiment.
From 9 years ago, there were 4 of them running the show: Gentaro Hongo, Nagisa Nijisaki, Teruaki Kubota, Kagechika Musashido.
I recognize a couple of those faces.
Hongo was the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical.
Ace.
Nijisaki was his right-hand man and did the lion's share of the planning. If he got a haircut.
That guy looks bald on top. That's definitely not 90.
Yep. Kubota led the company's research and development division. Musashido was their majority stockholder. The finance guy. It was these 4 people who planned the initial experiment. Let me simplify it for you. Hongo designed it, and Nijisaki put it all together. Kubota developed the technology required, and Musashido provided the cash. So it's Hongo, Nijisaki, Kubota, Musashido.
Junpei couldn't shake the sense that he'd heard those names somewhere before.
Well, of course, more than 4 people were required to conduct an experiment of this scale. To that end, they organized a top-secret team to assist them with their research. All in all, they gathered 10 people or so. These 10 completed their team, and they were able to begin the project. They named it the Nonary Project.
Really 10 and not 9?
The Tenery Project. The purpose of the experiment was to research the prospect of controlling a human mind through sheer will. The vessel, I suppose you could say, for this control was the morphogenetic field. Why did the glycerin suddenly begin to crystallize? Why did the crystal structure of EDT undergo a sudden change? Why did the rats improve their puzzle-solving skills with each generation? Experiments with humans produced the same results. The more people who knew the answer to a question, the more people there were who could answer correctly without having seen the problem before. Why? How? The answer is that the shape of the answer has been stored in a field invisible to the naked eye. And through that field, the resonant event transmits information related to that answer. That's essentially the idea behind morphogenetic fields. But that's just a theory. A game theory? Can't bring yourself to believe it? Not really, that's just a YouTube channel. Oh, let's see.
But they just talk about theories. I mean, it's not actual fact.
Yeah, in fact, they say it's just a theory.
A game theory.
Anyway, we've leaned on that button for long enough. Let's go on with the story. Let's say someone killed another person because the devil told them to do it. Whether the devil exists or not has no relevance to the murderer. They believe the devil exists. Whether or not he does is immaterial. So what matters here is that Hongo believed in the morphogenetic field.
Snake nodded.
But I still don't get it. You said they wanted to figure out how to control people, right? That is what you were saying? Yes. So how are they going to do that with a morphogenetic field? I'll keep it simple. Let's suppose 10,000 people have solved a certain problem. The chance of you knowing that answer, even if no one has told you, will go up. Let's have another example, shall we? Say 1 million people were able to do a handstand right now. Tomorrow, the chances of you doing a handstand would be higher, even if you had heard nothing of this hypothetical mass handstanding. Mankind's thought process and actions are all part of a resonant event. All of the resonant events encoded in the fields are projected onto you. Of course, this assumes you believe in this theory. Do you follow so far? Yeah. But let's say, hypothetically, that there was a person who had the same effect as those millions of people. What would happen? If that one person were to do a handstand, other people would find themselves wanting to do handstands as well. Can you imagine what a person with powers like that would be able to do?
Cause people to do handstands.
Come on! There's no way! I'm not done. Imagine another scenario. Imagine another person. This is an ordinary person. Let's say he does a handstand. What if there was someone who could grab the resonant event he created by doing that and use it to make other people do handstands? This is the silliest example. What would happen then? A person who has the power to write to the field and someone who can read from the same. You could think of them as the writer and the reader, or the transmitter and the receiver. What would the world be like if there were people with abilities like these?
Junpei thought about it for a moment.
So the transmitter's resonant event can be transmitted through the field and sent to the receiver. And then the transmitter can control the receiver however they wish. That's what you're saying, right? Yes, close enough at least. Come on, that's just crazy. Well, if you want to prove that, then you'll have to test it first. At least that was how they thought. That was why they decided to do their experiment. That was how the Nonary project began.
Snake suddenly looked very serious.
Junpei, have you ever heard of the Ganzfeld experiment?
Junpei nodded.
Yeah, that was an experiment in telepathy, right? They put a pair of subjects in separate rooms. Then they'd show one of them a picture and ask the other one what they saw. Interesting, I'm impressed.
Well, I learned about it in another walkthrough, another playthrough of this.
Yes, that is exactly correct. So, why'd you bring up the Ganzfeld experiment? It was used to screen subjects for the Nonary project. The hospital in a remote town was affiliated with Cradle Pharmaceutical. Oh look, it's these guys again. Hongo used it to conduct experiments on visiting children in secret. Some of them, he found, had potential. He began to gather children that showed promise, children that seemed as though they might be able to access the field. Of course, none of them volunteered.
Because why would children want to be abducted for an experiment by scary men?
Especially one that's designed to threaten their lives.
I think even a kid would understand, oh, this is going to be scary? No.
They were kidnapped.
Dun dun dun. His face barely moved as he spoke. There were 9 pairs of siblings taken for 18 children total. For reasons that were not fully understood at the time, each pair had 1 transmitter and 1 receiver. They were split perfectly. As such, the 18 children were split into 2 groups of 9.
Okay.
The children who were put in Group Q were the ones who excelled at transmitting. They were transferred to the mock experiment building known as Building Q in the Nevada desert. The children who excelled at receiving were put in Group A. The members of Group A were placed on the former hospital ship Gigantic. From the experiments he had conducted so far, Hongo had learned the following. There were 2 things that increased the one's resonance with these fields. First is epiphany. The other is danger. Danger. Have you ever been faced with an especially difficult problem and thought about it very long and very hard until finally it suddenly appeared in your mind? May seem obvious to say so, but that is what is meant by epiphany. The information obtained through that epiphany can easily be transmitted through the fields where it can be easily interpreted. Adding danger to that equation allows for even easier field access. Therefore, Hongo set up a number of puzzles across the gigantic. The participants had to solve each puzzle before they could move to the next room. Of course, he hadn't forgotten to include danger. More specifically, he had detonated a bomb on the hull of the gigantic. The children in Group A were forced to play the nonary game as the ship sunk. By forcing the children into a life or death situation, Hongo hoped to increase the likelihood of their tapping into the fields. The children from Group Q, on the other hand, were confined to the mock experiment Building Q. Building Q duplicated the interior and the puzzles of the gigantic exactly. Hongo explained the situation to the children in Group Q. Solve the puzzles you find throughout the rooms. When you solve them, transmit that information to the children in Group A. If you succeed, they will be able to solve the puzzles and escape. But if you fail, then the gigantic will sink, and all your brothers and sisters will drown. Do you know why the astronauts of Apollo 13 were able to return to Earth safely? It was because NASA had access to a replica of the Apollo 13 capsule. All of the equipment, the instruments, everything, all of it identical. NASA was able to replicate the situation the astronauts were facing by putting themselves in the same situation. They attempted to solve the problems they knew the astronauts were experiencing. Once they had found solutions, they reported their findings to the men aboard the actual capsule. That was how they were able to return safely. It was the same with Gigantic and Building Q.
Except with psychic powers.
Yeah. The children from Group Q had to use the power of epiphany to solve the puzzles they found and transmit what they learned through the fields. The children in Group A, however, had to access the fields to learn how they might advance to the next stage.
Or just solve the puzzles on their own.
Yeah, kind of like what we did.
Yeah. What does this experiment prove? And what about the scenario where the Group Q children... What if the Group Q children hadn't solved the puzzles, but the kids on the ship had?
Well, I mean, I guess that's part of what their research would show. It's one of those, well, maybe this doesn't exist.
Yeah, the possibility of disproving the hypothesis, or at least making it appear more unlikely through the research. Anyway, Snake says, "That is the simplest explanation I can manage."
Snake sounded defeated. His half-hearted attempt at derision served only to show how much the story had affected him. Just as Junpei was about to speak... Hey, Junpei, Snake, how much longer are you two going to sit around on those bony butts of yours? Get down here already! Seven's voice echoed from below. Snake took a deep breath and blinked rapidly, as if just waking up from a long nap.
He's right. My butt is rather bony. Let's go, shall we?
Although I can't say about yours, as I cannot see it, and nor do I want to feel it.
We don't have much time. We need to get out of here, and soon.
Snake headed for the stairs, but Junpei put out an arm to stop him.
Hold it. There's one more thing I want to ask you. Are you sure that there were 18 kids? Why? Well, I thought it was only 16. Oh, yes, that is what they said on the news, wasn't it? Yes, I have no doubt that 18 children were abducted and used in Hongo's experiment. After all, you couldn't exactly play a nonary game with any less, could you? Well, yeah, but... Are you saying that the news got it wrong? Yes, I am. There were 2 more children.
I guess you could call that fake news.
However, they had no relatives that I'm aware of. I imagine no one filed a police report when they went missing. They were brother and sister like Clover and I. The brother's name was Aoi. The sister's name was... Her name was...
Snake couldn't seem to bring himself to continue. It looked as if he was about to say... As if what he was about to say brought him great pain.
Her name was Akane. Dun dun dun! That was the girl who died.
Junpei felt as if he had been punched in the stomach. His vision went blurry, and his head felt light. He couldn't think straight. Everything was blank.
Well, this is an epiphany.
Had Akane Kurashiki died 9 years ago? If she had, then who was June? No, that was impossible.
It
Couldn't be true.
Star Wars vibes.
Yeah. No, that's impossible. Akane wasn't an uncommon name. If Snake had known her last name, then it would have been a different matter entirely. So they shared a name. There were many other people who did as well. It meant nothing. It was a different person. Of course it was a different person. It had to be. Junpei shook his head hard and pulled himself back to reality.
There's something wrong, Junpei. Your breathing sounds strange.
Then Snake had noticed. Junpei cleared his throat and tried to act calm.
Oh, no, it's nothing. I'm fine. Let's get back down there, alright?
Snake raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. He headed down the stairs, Junpei bringing up the rear.
The bony rear.
Yeah, he couldn't bring himself to ask. He told himself if he knew the answer already, but he couldn't bring himself to ask what the girl's last name had been. With every step he took, the cold, hard sound of feet against metal dug at his heart.
Oh, that's a twist and a half.
Yeah.
Do we want to check out the Sheldrake book in the next episode?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
Okay. Revelation City, here we come. In the next episode.
Goodbye.